the mechanics are like this: that a person gets involved in forbidden pleasures. What's the difference between eating a cheeseburger l'shem taiva and eating that extra bag of kosher Doritos l'shem tainug?
Mutter versus Asur.
Yeah, but what for sure? But what? So what? What's the difference between what I did? Like how is that different? What's the difference? Let me ask you like this. You're gonna, you're one of your daughters or whatever made a big plate of cakes. Yeah. Like in my house, I don't know why, but my kids just for fun, they make massive cakes that sit there and just make everyone fat. Anyway, that's one of my nisyonis, yeah. So they make these huge chocolate chip cakes, yeah, that are just unbelievably irresistible. And they're just sitting there on the counter. And every time you walk past, you have to be a mamash, a warrior to not just fresh, yeah? So it's one thing eating that cake, yeah? But what about if I turn back, what about if there was a Shiloh and my daughter didn't know if she used the Trafer pig gelatine chocolate chips or kosher chocolate chips? You think I'm going to fresh on that cake? Of course not. But even Kavochem, if I knew it was mamash treif, because there's a difference between being involved in your pleasure when it's not an avera and being involved in your pleasure when it is an avera. The person who's involved in his pleasure when it's an avera is much more godly in his own eyes than a person who's involved in a pleasure when it's not an avera. When you're eating kosher chocolate, l'shem taiva, l'shem oineg, yeah? Well, you're important. You're very important to yourself. But the minute someone turns around and says, by the way, that chocolate's not kosher, you'll be like, whoa, you'll put it away. Why? Because at the end of the day, Hashem's pleasure is more important to you than your own pleasure. Right now, you're saying in your mind, look, it's not us to eat this chocolate. It's not mamash giving my Father in heaven real agmas nefesh. It's kosher. It's bedat decharedis. It's mamash kosher. I said a brocha. It's fine. It's obviously not the best thing to do. But the minute it's something that's mamash asa, then I'm not prepared to do that. Why? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom is more important to me. That's the difference between a forbidden food and a kosher food on a psychological level. But there's an actual metziastic difference. So now, when a person is involved in actual forbidden food, it doesn't go back up to Hashem. So if a person fresses on chazir or basa v'cholav, yeah, and then he says a geschmaka after bracha, he for sure doesn't be masakan that. What's the tikkun for those actions? The tikkun is that his soul goes into what's called a barren wasteland of the shadow of death. Yeah. And then he starts to kind of feel very distant from Hashem. And that propels him to turn around and say, enough of this lifestyle. I need to dedicate myself to avodas Hashem. That's the fix there. So how does that work? And that's why it says that the place that Baalei Teshuva stand, that Tzaddikim can't stand, is because we've gone to that place where we've been involved in nothingness so deeply. The more you're involved in yourself as an end unto yourself, the more you're involved in nothingness, the more you're involved in the Chalal HaPanui, the more you're involved in nothing. That's called a parched and barren land and the valley of the shadow of death. That thing that we call me, separate from God as an independent entity, that is called the valley of death, the shadow of the valley of death. And the more I put myself there, either I fall asleep mamash and I become like the dead, as the Zohar says, as the Gemara says, that Rishayim Korim Kamesim, b'chayehem, that Rishayim are called dead in their life. So either I die, or I start to feel so empty and so unbearably. I mean, there's no word for it to say unbearably far, whatever it is. I'm just like, it's like pouring into this empty pot, and this empty pot just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you just feel more and more nothing, more and more non-existent. And you just want to exist. You just want to be. And you know that the only truth is Hashem. That's reality. Hashem is reality. And I've been praying, I've been worshiping this non-entity called Shmuel Diamond for the past 45 years, and it's enough. I want to get back to reality now, back to Hashem. I've been praying to this figment of my imagination, worshiping this phantom, and it's just and it's now that's tshuva me'ava rabba me'umka deliba, when the person just feels like that's it. I'm so nothing. It's so ironic. It's so ironic. It's the exact opposite, because the more credibility I pay my own independent self, the more I'm connected to non-existence. Because Hashem Echad, I'm just a detail in his. I'm just part of this cosmic machine, which is amazing. But when I think I'm an end unto myself, and the more I think I'm an end unto myself, the more I'm worshipping delusion, the more I'm worshipping a phantom and nothing. And that's why the people who worship themselves the deepest are the least happy. And you see it all around. The narcissists of this world are the most unbearable people to be with. And they all they do is pander to themselves, and they're just falling into a deeper and deeper void. And who are the ones who are the most buoyant? Is the people who are giving to everyone else, the people who ask the question, how can I help? How can I help you? They're the ones who are full of life. They're buoyant. They're the ones you want to be with. The ones who sit there, and instead of them whining about how things aren't going exactly the way they want them to go, and how the food on the airplane wasn't exactly how they wanted it to be, and how their car was, they didn't have the heated seats, and you're just like, leave me alone, man. And the other guy's like, tell me, how you doing? How's it going? And he's like, with a big smile on life. Why is he full of life? Because he's connected to his tachlis, the reason why he got created, not to what he is, but to the why he is, which means he's become godly, which is real, as opposed to this other guy who's praying and worshiping himself, and he's fallen into the valley of the shadow of death. That's what David called it, the valley of the shadow of death. It's ironic that Tupac used those words, because he was a narcissist par excellence, just like all of that chevra. They were all passionate narcissists. That's the whole inyan of that whole genre of music. Is every one of those people is the ultimate paroi, yeah. Rahmanas. But that's the irony. The Rebbeinu Shalom has such a givaldic sense of humor. The irony is that the more you pray to yourself, the more you worship yourself, the more empty you become. And then either you got one of two options. Either you just become the Walking Dead, literally, you become a figment you become a player in the Tzaddik's game. You become a mushroom or a little turtle in the game of the Tzaddik, not you, this person. Or you do tshuva me'ava rabba me'umka deliba, and you just explode back into reality. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay.